Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. We are glad you made it. And look, first, Clay, let's get this squared away for the other channel that I have, my personal channel, which is Veterans InfoTap. Now, for those that know, I get it. Not all 115,000 subscribers to Veterans InfoTap, you might not even be aware. So I'm just kind of letting people know that for a 4-day period, Veterans InfoTap was down. The reason why was because I opened up an email that had a PDF, that in the PDF there was a link, and I clicked on the link. Okay, so, and it was all with the idea of business and all that stuff. So it wasn't anything quirky, but it was quirky enough to shut me down. They basically got in, took over my Gmail account, which was then tied to the YouTube channel. And so they got into there. They changed it all over to, they turned, thank goodness. My first thing was, my God, I had 1,200 videos. Now, granted, some of them were kind of time related. It's just only mattered in that moment, while others will kind of live on into perpetuity. But still, 1,200 videos, Clay, was a lot of videos that I thought may have just poof, disappeared. Now, luckily, they just took all of those videos, and it might have just been a sake of time thing for them and just moved them all to private. It was probably going to take longer to delete them. So it was probably quicker just to hide the visibility and move them all to private. Then they added a bunch of their own videos, and some, look, there's people way smarter than me out there when it comes to tech stuff. Somehow, some way, they posted up a bunch of videos that looked like they were 8 months old, 10 months old. It said that's how old they were, how long they've been on. They already had views, all this stuff. And they changed the, the logo, and they changed the banner and added some, featured videos and all that stuff. So got the YouTube account shut down with the help of subscribers reaching out to YouTube saying, hey, look, this account's not right. And then me reaching out to YouTube as well. Great team over there. They got everything handled very quickly, got up and running, got my Gmail account back within a couple days, and they changed everything, all the authentication, everything was gone. So it wasn't like, send it to my other email and I'll get it. All of that disappeared. So, and oh, by the way, if you call if you're able to even find a phone number, first of all, it's not even a phone number. It's kind of like a link, and then it goes to something, and then it calls you, and then you have to say, yes, I'm trying to make a phone call. So you type in your phone number, it calls you. Yes, I'm trying to call Google. And then somebody will answer the phone, and they just walk you through, Clay, like what's on the internet, which is just this endless loop of, I don't have access to any of that stuff anymore. Yeah. So what are you telling me? And they go, oh, sorry, that's really all we can do. So there was a moment there where I was thinking, what, this is ridiculous. So anyway, that's a lie if they tell you that there's just no way. There is a way. It's just that they try to, I guess, limit how much of that workflow comes through. Like, really, how important is it to you? Yeah. My suggestion to anybody who either A, has a YouTube account or just a Gmail account, if you ever have it hacked or whatever, and it's just impossible, is reach out via X or Twitter, right? Reach out to the YouTube team or the Google Gmail team, whatever team is out there for your issue, because that's where you'll start to get some traction and get some sort of movement. The end result is I've gotten the channel back. I've done some cleanup. Some of the things the YouTube team puts it basically back to the pre-hacked status, which is good. I still had to go in and move all the videos from private back to public. So there was a barrage of videos being kind of pushed out there. Then I had to change logo and banner, and I had to remove some featured videos. This was all, and I don't know if it was somebody who's involved with it or somebody who's invested into it. Cryptocurrency specific, Ripple. So Ripple cryptocurrency was the site. I mean, and in fact, I don't know if it's still there now or not. It takes a few days for everything to kind of update, but there was still the logo of Ripple that would show up on the internet if you went to Veterans InfoTap. Once you click on Veterans InfoTap and actually get to the real site on YouTube, then all the logos are correct and all of that. In the meantime, I'm going to end it pretty much there, but I did want to give you, Clay, a huge shout out. Thank you so much for pushing out on your channel the CivDiv that this had happened, and you guided people to the another account that I created to continue to push out information for fear of how long is this going to take. I mean, this could take 3 weeks. This could take a month. Who knows? It might not ever come back. So I really appreciate you pushing that out for me, Clay, and for getting the word out to all of my subscribers. I really appreciate it. And for those watching, if you're not subscribed to the CivDiv, please do that. I mean, if you're watching this, I mean, obviously, you know, Clay is a solid dude and the CivDiv is great. I'm sure Clay will make sure we get that link in this. It's already tied to this channel, but let's make it easy and just put it somewhere. All right. With that, thank you guys so much. Had a 4-day little, we'd call it a break, although it was definitely not a break. Back up and running. Now let's jump back into the topics that we're going to have today. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. Clay, let the people know what you have in store.
Yeah, so you might notice I'm in a hotel room. I'm definitely not down in my basement. My house did not flood again, so that's good. I'm actually at the VA claim clinic, and I want this episode to be different, Jason. I'm going to talk about the clinic in general, and I really want you to ask me questions because we've been on the floor the last day and a half at the clinic speaking with the VSOs. We spoke with the VSRs. We spoke with the VFW head sheds in charge of that whole thing. There's mobile C&P exam units, and it's just absolutely, it's insane that everything's happening right here in one day. And then there's a topic that we did not discuss last week, going from 100% to 100% P&T. We're definitely going to bring that up because we had a few comments saying that we did not cover that. Don't worry, we ran out of time. And then depending on what the episode looks like, we might go further or we might not. We'll just go ahead and leave it there. But rolling back to the VA claim clinic, this thing, Jason, is absolutely insane. Okay. Pretty much if you're a veteran and you go to a VA claim clinic, here's your day, right? One, you get there early. We had veterans show up at 6:30. One showed up at 6 a.m. The doors open at 08. So at 8 a.m., you walk in, you go speak to a VSR face to face. You say, hey, I'm here to sign in. They give you a form, and it basically says, what claims are you submitting, right? Initial claim, supplemental, higher level review, fully developed, whatever. And then once you sign in, they process everyone. They give them a number. You just wear, hello, my name is, except for it says 1, 2, 3, 4. You get a number. You wear that all day. And then as you go through the process, they'll call you on your cell phone. That's a Darth Maul case, by the way. They'll call you on your cell phone and say, hey, you're up for your C&P exam. And then you walk back there to the C&P exam mobile unit. You have your exam. VES was the lead on C&P exams this weekend. And then from there, that C&P examiner then gives the claim, the DBQ, back to the VSR. And then the VSR sits down with you face to face and they say, hey, here's what we got. Bam, 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 bam. And there's 2 VSRs on site. There's 18 off site. So we're in Louisville, Kentucky right now. There's a Louisville regional office. I'm saying Louisville because that's how you say it. That's where I'm from. It's Louisville for everyone else, okay? But the Louisville regional office, there's 18 VSRs on staff actually doing the adjudication. And so there's a quality assurance check when a claim is adjudicated. There's a bunch of, VA processes going on, but veterans are walking out of here in a day, 2 days max with their VA rating from submitting the claim to being rated. It's been about, I would say, 6 hours on average. So it's crazy. But with that, Jason, do you have any questions on the VA claim clinic whatsoever? I've talked to a ton of people, and I'd like to just push this information out because no one's talking about it.
Right.
The VFW is not broadcasting it, which I think is really weird. The VA is not broadcasting it, which I think is even more weird. And it's just, make this up.
So just a quick observation, and then I'll have a question. So one observation I think that I take from this is, one, that's awesome. You can walk in as a veteran and basically you're getting front loaded.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you've just bypassed tens of thousands of other veterans who are currently in line waiting to get their claim adjudicated, who may or may not be worse off than your situation, right? Financially, mentally, whatever it is. So I'm torn with that. Put the resources where they need to be, go in order that's already there, and make it happen, right? If you have an extreme circumstance that would warrant an expedited claim process, right? Priority processing, sure, go there. But if it's, you're 23 years old, or no, 23 is too young. You're 33 years old, you're making $150,000 a year, you decide to file your claim for your bad knee and your back. Really? So cool. It's cool. It's done in a day and a half. I love it, but it's just not sustainable, and it's not going to be able to, every single veteran's not going to be able to file their claim that way. They'd be overloaded and it wouldn't work. So although it's great news, and although it sounds great on the headlines and the VA can say whatever they're saying about it, I have my reservations. So that's my kind of observation thus far. My question to you is kind of going back to the priority processing type of qualifiers for folks, definitely take advantage of this. And kind of in that same vein, how about surviving spouses or veterans that are filing for pension? These are more difficult claims than just your standard, my knee, my back, I got sleep apnea, I had a sleep study, right? These are more complicated. The paperwork really sucks and to get through. Did you see any spouses or anybody filing for pension, or is this pretty much just veterans filing for disability compensation?
So they can file for pension and they can file for survivors. I personally haven't spoken to anyone on that situation yet. I don't know if they're here this year. I have no idea. So, I'm not able to speak on that, but I do know that they can file, which is definitely good, right? Especially for survivors. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. Someone from Radcliffe, Kentucky, which is the country for anyone who doesn't know that. There could be a survivor there. They can drive to Louisville and then have that survivor, the DIC adjudicated right there on the spot. And to your point, Jason, I think that is a great point, and it's definitely going to be something that's iterated throughout, the YouTube comments here soon, saying that, the Louisville regional office is prioritizing these claims, but everyone else who's already in the system now has to wait another week or two because of this claim clinic. And that's a valid argument, 1,000%. And then another argument to kind of go against the claim clinic, which I'm a fan of, by the way, but if I was to argue against it, it's also, I would say, I don't know if discriminatory is the right word, right? But those who are able came to the clinic. And so you might have a veteran in Indianapolis, which is like a 2.5-hour drive. They might not be physically able or financially able to do the drive. Right. Now that's close, right? Think about Arizona, Vegas, California, Florida. And we did have, I probably talked to, I would say, over 60 veterans from that got information from YouTube, that watch Veterans Daily, they watch InfoTap, they watch CivDiv. They did fly from Arizona. We had someone drive from Florida, which I think is insane. We had people from North Carolina, and that's the argument. That's probably the biggest argument I would make against the claim clinic. Is it really tailors to locals, one, okay, and then two, those who are able, and that's a physical ability and then a financial ability. So there's definitely some give and take. However, okay, those veterans who are able, who have waited 9 months, 10 months for their claim, we spoke to tons of veterans, and this morning they got rated. So it's like, man, that's really awesome. But then you have this, this discriminatory kind of bias within the system. Do I think the VA should do more claim clinics? Absolutely. And I have a thought on that too. I definitely want to throw this back at you. So the VA didn't host the claim clinic. Right. If it wasn't for the VFW National Convention, the claim clinic wouldn't exist. And so now it's like, okay, so if the VFW is championing that, right, and I'm sure there's some there's some money involved of, who's paying. They're federal employees. They're working on the weekends. Someone's paying that bill, okay? Who's paying the mobile C&P exam unit? So someone's paying for this. It's a VFW National Convention, which happens once a year in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, well, what about everywhere else, right? Why isn't, this is my number one question, why isn't the VA hosting VA claim clinics? Why is it the VFW National Convention? That's something that I think, a question that should be asked to the VA secretary, saying, hey, these claim clinics are great. You talk about them. The VA talks about them during press conferences. But if they're so great, why can't, every quarter, like every 3 months, Southwest, Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, why can't there be a regional office VA claim clinic like the VFW did? Why is it a VSO is taking the bull by the horns and leading it and not the VA? That's my number one question, and I don't understand.
Right. I think that, look, I was never, ever anywhere as big as the VA, right? So, but when I did manage an office with multiple offices, right, multiple locations, you start getting pulled all over the place and everybody wants you in their backyard. Mm-hmm. And it's not feasible. It's just like, okay, well, if I was telling other cities within the county, fine. You want me there once a week? Not me, but one of my staff there once a week? Cool. You need to pony up and pay me money.
Yeah.
So I can hire another person that I could then float around. So we're already talking about a $15 billion deficit within the VA. So I already know that the argument is one, it's not sustainable, can't afford it. We're already backlogged. We need to focus on the backlog of claims that are already in, and the easy route out of doing that is the veterans who filed claims deserve to be adjudicated in the order in which received. Yeah. Now, with that being said, though, Clay, I am a fan of what you're saying in this sense. If you meet certain qualifiers, mm-hmm. right? So, like the severe situations, right? Those ones, right? You want to help a veteran not become homeless? Well, look, veteran has PTSD, it's super major, has this, has that, they can't work, whatever it is, they should be on TDIU, but they've never filed a claim, right? Come in the door right now, bam, you're already getting evicted from your house. You might be able to turn that around if you're able to act quickly within and get a check within a month or two. Now, all of a sudden, that veteran's not homeless, right? So if you have proof of risk of being homeless, proof of homeless, age factors, types of conditions, cancers, that type of stuff, right? Surviving spouse. I see a specific pool of the types of benefits that I believe other veterans would go, you know what? Go ahead of me.
Yeah.
I'm cool. Go ahead of me. That's fine, right? Because it's going to be a small portion compared to the greater number, right? So I think that's probably the approach, and that's something that you could actually maybe get to happen, right? And even if it's with kind of in conjunction with the greater national VSO, veteran service organizations, with their accredited reps, they could be the upfront processor, getting the paperwork together, all that type of stuff, get it over to, and then go through the whole process, right? So it's kind of like we're giving, you're giving, and maybe it's a once every, like a quarter, like you said, and every single regional office, there's not that many regional offices. You'd almost have to do a map overlay of VHA, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
The medical centers. So that would be your overlay. You take all the medical centers throughout the nation and do an overlay on that and do it at those hospitals, right?
Yeah, they already have the infrastructure. They already have everything.
Right. So, that's what I would envision anyway. What are your thoughts?
So I'm gonna switch topics on what happened at the claim clinic, because I got a glimpse of some VA drama, right? It's like Housewives of VA type of stuff.
Funny.
So Basically what happened, and I'm going to speak from my understanding of what I saw. So the VFW essentially coordinated this whole thing and said, hey, we're going to have VFW reps. We're going to have VSRs, 20 of them to be exact. We're going to have a tent to where people can talk to VSRs, and then these 3 mobile CMP exam units, and we're going to get ratings. And Big VA was like, yep, we're down. So boom, they go. Louisville regional office is in charge of this. We come on Saturday morning, and the first thing the Louisville regional office says is, hey, we're not doing ratings. Now, you can imagine if you flew from Vegas or you drove from Texas, you're pissed off. And that's what happened. That happened on Saturday morning. And Jay and I, we were talking with the VFW. People started crowding around us who came to the clinic because of the channel. And I felt weird. I was like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. So then I spoke with the VFW, and this gentleman was extremely pissed off, okay? Because here's the drama. Louisville regional office basically said, hey, we're not doing that to the VFW. And the VFW was like, yeah, well, Big VA said you are. And not joking at all, the assistant director of the event, the assistant director of operations and admin, had to call the undersecretary of the VBA, right, which is a big deal position, okay? These are serious positions. Had to call them on the phone, get them on the line, and then have Big VA say, hey, Louisville RO, do your job. And it was just insane to me. And I think what that means to the everyday veteran is there's a clear disconnect between VA and the regional offices. And you wouldn't think so.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even have that thought until I saw VSRs say they're not doing, like, your whole job is to adjudicate a claim. You go to a claim clinic, but you don't adjudicate claims. Like, what are you even saying right now? And they genuinely thought that was going to fly. It did not. So Saturday at around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, they did start giving out ratings. But it is insane that it took the undersecretary of VBA, right? So in the military world, that would be like, you're on the team, the squad level. This would be like your regimental commander, right? So above battalion, you're at regiment 06, maybe some stars. The Camp Lejeune commander saying, hey, you're going to go to the field today. That's basically what happened. And you're just like, dude, what's happening? So do you have anything to add from your experience as a VSO, looking at the disconnect between, big VA and then regional office?
They are definitely their own islands. So It is definitely not a continental organization, right? So it's just a bunch of islands out there, and each one has its own king or queen, right? That's running it. Sure, you have the big VA so look, it is almost absolutely like the states, if you look at it that way, right? So you have the president of the United States, you have federal laws, right? And then you have the states that go, I don't care. We can smoke weed here, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that seems weird. But that's exactly how it is. All the regional offices operate differently. Some are that you would think that it's like Starbucks. You go in and you order whatever your drink is, and it's going to taste exactly the same, and they're going to say your name and all that stuff, and everybody's going to have blue hair. But it's not, right? It is definitely not. What's funny, Clay?
The blue hair one, that one got me. That one got me.
So well, it's funny how that is with Starbucks. Anyway, so the big point though is that they are definitely not Starbucks, right? It is definitely not everything is the same no matter where you go. It is the opposite. They have a lot, just like the medical side, right? The VHA, the directors that run their healthcare facility with all their clinics, they have a ton of power, and they are left to do what they want, right? As long as they're meeting the overarching mission, right? They might get handed down some things, right? Maybe you need to, boost up, boost down, whatever, reduction in force or whatever it is. But how they run it, yeah, no, it's it's always been that way, at least as far back as I can remember. And what really sucks about that is one office might do really, really well. Now, where I was when I was accredited veteran service officer running my team, we were on a border county. So meaning that the next county over went to a different regional office and we went to a different one, right? So depending on the veteran, right? If you went here, then you went there. And if you went here, then your claim went there. And when we did this, now they got all the AI stuff that's just routing them all over the place. And they started that when I was there. But there's certain things that will always be in the more localized office. And that's going to be things like your vr&e, right? You got to go meet with your counselor. They're not going to AI figure out that they have more time in Florida, so you got to go to Florida for your vr&e. No, you got to go to the local one. So what we found is in some places would do certain things really good and better than the other, right? And so sometimes we would actually say, hey, look, your case is about this. You need vr&e. You need to do it here because we have a better vr&e counselor that you're going to see who's a little more open to actually having a conversation versus the other one. And so the offices at the county veteran service office level would work with each other and refer people back and forth depending on what the needs were to get the better result for the veteran. So anyway, yeah, that's horrible. I can't believe that you talk about thinking that everything is set up. You got all your T's crossed, I's dotted, but it shows you the pushback, right? Yeah, that they have for wanting to do anything like that. So here's the takeaway, right, Clay? Is whoever said that felt empowered to say that because that's the overarching feeling, right? Yeah. Which means that conversation's still happening. Hell no, we're not going to keep doing this. Next time you need to say no or whatever it is, right? Or we need to somehow get out of this. And they're going to use the same argument. We have other work to do. There's people, they have every argument you could think of not to do it. So I think that it was the VFW you said, right? Yeah. I think that they're really going to have to, really going to have to work with the upper echelons of leadership and try to get everybody on the same page. And then I think that we also have to remember that now this is it's a people thing, right? So people are weird, right? So now all of a sudden, if you start forcing people to drink whatever the Kool-Aid is, you might get people trying to slip a little something in the Kool-Aid because now they're just pissed off, right? Yeah, absolutely. So now all of a sudden, well, you think you need that rating? You think denied, or you think you're a 30%, maybe you're a 10. Not to be the conspiracy guy, that's usually your role, but I think that this could be a slippery slope, and that's very disheartening to hear that VA employees said that in this arena of we're coming together. I feel like a politician. We're coming together so we can, deliver benefits to veterans, and they don't want to do that. That's weird. So yeah, I don't know. That's mine.
They said this to veterans' face. Like, this wasn't a text message. This was a, hey, we're not going to do our jobs. And everyone's just sitting there like, dude, what?
It was like everybody circle around. Okay, thanks for making it. Just want you to set the expectations. We are not supplying any sort of rating decisions today. We're just going to accept applications for your disability compensation. Thank you very much.
That's basically what happened. And then, the whole debacle went down. But I do have a conspiracy because you brought it up, but it's a good one. It's a good conspiracy. And the main thing that I think in my opinion, the best piece of the claim clinic, which I have zero way to fact proof this, but VES is there and OptumServe is there doing CMP exams. Rand Paul, who's a senator for Kentucky, he's going to be here today. The undersec of VBA is going to be here today. The VA secretary and all the VA big heads are going to come this week, okay, throughout the week. And if I'm VES, if I run a company, because make no doubt, VES is a government contracting company. The client is here, okay, and
Right.
they're coming.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, well, who do I want to do these C&P exams? I'm certainly not going to pick the turd on the shelf, okay? So the C&P examiners that Jason and I talk so well about, that really suck, okay? I own VES. I'm not putting them in the lineup for this week. Not even close, right? You take vacation days, stay at home, don't even come to work. I'm going to get my A-team C&P examiners here.
Zero
And
complaints.
Indicators, yeah. Some indicators I saw was 3 veterans that I know from the channel came up and talked to me, and prior to their exam, they had sleep apnea secondary to mental health. All 3 of them did. One was PTSD, one was anxiety, the other one was some other mental health condition. And I'm like, hey, just so you guys know, this is like a 50-50. Like the VA is very picky when it comes to sleep apnea secondary. It's possible, but then they go through their exam extremely quick, and every one of them, hey, I got a favorable nexus, I'm going to be 100%. Well, 2 of them got 100% off of that. The other one got service connected for sleep apnea. And that's what made me think. I was like, they have good examiners in there. Like, they have examiners that are actually looking at the evidence. There's definitely not going to be, a nurse practitioner looking at sleep apnea to PTSD. VES is not going to put that in the lineup when the client is at the clinic.
Right.
So that's probably, if I was to choose
Smart.
one thing about the VA claim clinic that really sets it apart, it's got to be the C&P exams, because we know that is the number one variable in everyone's claim. And if they're going to put their best staff in exams, I would say it's worth it. Not only is it fast, but now you have a C&P examiner who's worth their weight, if you will. There's no way I can prove that. That's just
you didn't have a scale. You didn't have a scale to weigh them.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to. We did interview a VES representative, not a C&P examiner, and it was a little weird because I was explaining to him, like, hey, I'm with YouTube. I'm here for the VFW. Doing some series. We're asking you what your best advice is, and in my head, I'm thinking, man, I have talked so much baloney about this company, and you're about to support the channel. So thank you very much, right? I'm not going to tell them that, but they'll find it out sometime. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the claim clinic as a whole. The C&P exams, I think, are the best option. Speed is a part of that. And then obviously, I think the arguments you brought up, a ton of veterans are going to resonate with that. I resonate with that. I definitely agree. And I think it really comes down, the last thing I'll say on VA claim clinic, and I'll turn it over to you, is if the VA is going to push this, which the VA secretary during press conferences loves talking about VA claim clinics, okay? They're awesome. They're so great. If the VA is going to do that, they need to do it. Like, full on do it. They need to double down. And if not, don't. Like, we can't have this this kind of in between where it's like, well, we saw 15 veterans today. It's like, okay, I mean, don't even do it, Like, we're talking about thousands. And I know I said that's the last thing. That wasn't the last thing. I lied to you. Here's the last thing. Another thing that came out of the VA claim clinic for me is I saw at least 50 veterans in one day, in about 5 hours, submit a claim, have it adjudicated to the C&P exam, order the exam, have it adjudicated, and the rating be awarded in 5 hours. That tells me it's possible. They can do it, right? So 6-7 months, I think, is clearly after this weekend. I think that's clearly unacceptable, right? Someone's not doing their job. Someone's not doing it correctly. Something's happening, because if the VA can work like this, start to finish, there's absolutely no way from C&P exam to decision it should take 4 months. I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay, I'll get off my rant horse, Jason. Last thoughts on VA claim clinic.
Yeah, I'm glad you threw in that last piece about the post C&P exam, because the upfront stuff, sometimes it's us that drag it on, right? I don't want to go get my medical information. Here, let me fill out this form, send it to you. Now you got to reach out to my doctor. Now you try. They have to give it a couple tries. That's going to take a couple months, and so things get dragged on. Or we start submitting additional evidence, and then all of a sudden it's like it keeps putting it back as you keep sitting and stuff. So yeah, the post CMP exam. I agree. It shouldn't be more than 2 months anyway. And a 1 month kind of a time frame from CMP. From CMP, and this is the hard part, from CMP received.
Yeah,
right?
That's another factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes they sit on it for 3 weeks. So from the time the CMP exam information, DBQ, all that stuff is received by the VA, I think a month is kind of probably the target. Within a month time frame for a decision. I mean, you have everything you need. So I think that I know I went heavy on kind of negative on the claims clinic thing, but I think that it's just it's the thing that glares out to me beyond the sure glitz and glamour, cool, done in a day. Well, what about the other 300,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So that's now all that to say is that, look, if you have the opportunity to go to one, why not? Sure. Go. I mean, one more person, what the hell, and it'll show that there's, I guess, a desire for that. Again, I'm just going to kind of double down. I think that it should be the worst type of situations, the harder to deal with claims, that type of stuff. I think that should be the focus, and I think that they should roll them out nationally, like you had mentioned, on a quarterly basis. And I think that the map overlay of VHA would be an appropriate way to do that, and just work with the veteran service organizations. It's look, I'm not trying to take anything away. I feel weird a little bit about it because I was kind of a downer on it. It is exciting. That's cool. I love that. But it's hard to say that when you know that there's still a backlog, right? So it's hard to be excited about the shift in priority. And I get it. The VFW is pushing on it. And look, for some folks, if you don't have any other way to file a claim, you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, you can't find a VSO to help you, and this happens to be in your backyard, awesome. There's your great opportunity to go sit and actually work with somebody, which people need. And that's why it's so important to find a veteran service officer if you can, or veteran service rep, accredited rep, to help you if you have that ability. I am going to throw this out there, Clay, and I know that I'm reaching a little bit here. So sure, the VA secretary is going to talk about how awesome this is. Why? Because he's $15 billion in the hole, didn't explain it to Congress, waited until after the House already figured out their spending bill, after the Senate already marked up theirs, and then they're coming back going, well, you know what, this fiscal year that we're currently in, we're going to be short almost $3 billion for veterans benefits like pension and some other things. So we'd like to let you know that today. And oh, by the way, we're going to be short about $13 billion for next fiscal year. That's with a B. Sorry, I didn't have anybody competent to figure that out with the idea of PACT Act and the pushing of people filing intent to files and filing claims for PACT Act related presumptive conditions. And let's throw in the couple Vietnam presumptive conditions that Vietnam veterans should have gotten many years ago. I mean, the fact hypertension wasn't on there was ridiculous anyway. Then you had all of the electronic, tech calamities that they've had. You've had the COVID forbearance, where all of a sudden you have all these foreclosures happening on people who were already in a bad situation because of the VA's mismanagement and inability to crystal ball, hey, if we stop doing this, people will actually get foreclosed on. Oh, wow, that really did happen. Then what else, Clay? We got pensions, all these pension overpayments, right? The most vulnerable of all of us are those on pension. right? Those are war period veterans who are low and no income, and spouses, surviving spouses, by the way, who are receiving a small pension from the VA because they're low and no income. Well, they overpaid them for a decade, and now and what are the overpayments, right? Couple $1,000s a year or something like that. Well, that adds up. And then all of a sudden they want to take that back from the most vulnerable and get those people pushed down on the street. And believe me, the VA has effed up so many times to have something good to talk about, even if they don't own it. The VFW owns it.
Yeah.
Right? He's just happy to have something to talk about that's good. You can't ride the PACT. And we implemented the PACT Act and people, good. I mean, whatever. You didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
What'd you do? You ended up being $15 billion short because you couldn't forecast. I don't know. I'm very disheartened with the whole. I can be irritated and move on over one or two things, but when it's just, my God, huge. Like, and these are things, Clay, that it's like, all right, Clay, I got a big problem for you here. 7 plus X equals 11. What is X, right? These people couldn't figure that out. Like, it was that easy of a thing, right? If we're increasing veteran input, right? Bringing more veterans into the fold. And oh, by the way, we opened up healthcare, right? To allow more war period veterans into the healthcare without any other qualifiers, right? Good. It's all good things. It's going to cost more money, right? So I don't know. That's my take on why the VA secretary is excited about it. By the way,
just
thought I'd say that.
I was not expecting that. I like it though. I agree with everything you said. Okay, I'm going to throw a counter question, and for the record, I want to state again, I agree with what Jason just said, but I think it's important we understand both factors at play here. And it's going to get a little political, and I hate doing this, but I think this warrants it.
Better you than me.
Do you think, okay, your personal thoughts, do you think when it's a Biden administration that runs the VA, okay, do you think that when the Biden administration in the VA makes a mistake, the other side of the aisle will really just pinpoint and slam specifically on the $15 billion shortfall, which is a big deal? Do you think it's blown out of proportion just because the other side of the aisle has a chance to take a shot at the Biden administration? Vice versa. Okay, we see that happening with Project 2025, and so it's not aligned with Trump, but people think it is, and so we see that side of the aisle, specifically on veterans benefits, take shots and blow things out of proportion. What are your, I know that's a difficult, I don't even know how I would answer it. I'm glad I'm asking the question. How would you, what are your thoughts on that?
So of course, first of all, but if it was a 15 million with an M, nobody'd be talking about it. It would be like, okay, well, we'll sweep this, we'll sweep that, we'll figure it out, right? And that's it. It's because it's 15 billion. That's huge. It is a huge, huge shortfall. This is not minuscule in any way. So to compound it, the problem is that the VA is so late to the table. Now, look, it doesn't matter what administration's in place. Sure, it's part of the cabinet. Sure, it's part of that administration, right? But at this level, come on, you are hiring or appointing the most competent people, so you don't have to look at it, right? Yeah. I mean, so I don't really care about the president. Okay, it's the VA. That's what I care about. And I mean, politically, they're going to take it there. This is the wrong person, and really, they should not be there. I mean, you get so many tries before it's like, look, it's the leadership team. Okay, so if you're not firing the people, well, then you need to be fired, right? So my problem is that one, it's gigantic. Two, I could have told you were going to be short. I already know I would be able to. I know you would be able to, Clay. I mean, it's not that hard to forecast. And guess what? In in any government situation, you should be asking for more money. And, oh, we got a little bit extra. We came in short. Look at us, right? Try to get more for veterans instead of going, I think we can make it work. In fact, loosely, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, the VA secretary's response to the fact that he did not inform Congress prior to figuring out the budgets, he missed the House by like a month, and he missed the markup from the Senate by like a week, and then he has this announcement. Now, his paraphrased quote here is, look, I've told you that I felt as though we were going to be able to make it happen with what we got, and we should be fine. But if we do need more money, I will come back. And now I'm here. You know what? Kick rocks. You are the head of the VA. If you heard anybody else say that, a corporation, Apple, Google, whoever, right? Tesla, go, so stakeholders, I know I said that I thought we were going to be able to make it with what we got. Yeah. And I would let you know if anything changed. And now I'm coming to you to let you know things have changed. Of something you should have known 6 freaking months ago is ridiculous to me. There should have at least, Clay, been a warno. It's more than likely that we're going to need more funding. Somewhere in the billions, not quite sure. I'm really working on it. I want to let you know now. I mean, you're talking to the purse strings, right? This is Congress, right? They're the ones that are going to feed you. And you cannot, from a leadership perspective, you cannot rely on, well, they're going to give it to us. It's for veterans. I mean, what are they going to do? Screw over the veterans? That'll be bad for their career. Ha ha ha. Right? No, that's just stupid. That's stupid. Because you can use that argument 6 months ago. What are they going to do? Say no? It's for veterans. Come on. I'm going to need another. I think we're going to need 10 billion more.
Oh, yeah.
At a minimum. You know, I don't know. So that's my thought on that. And sure, it happens both ways, right? From a political aspect, sure. Again, I don't really give a shit at the end of the day. I'm just focused at VA and the leadership at the VA. And if this was happening under any administration, I would be calling for, this is BS. That's horrible leadership. To have these many problems, not just the money thing, all the other things that I rattled off earlier, there's been way too many big problems that have come out. And again, Clay, look, 1, 2, cool. 5, 6, you get like one a year. Come on, you can't have 6. You can't have 6 huge issues. That's just too many. Move on. So anyway, back to you.
Yeah,
He's your buddy.
One of my yeah, we're friends. One of my biggest concerns is, and people get really mad at this whenever they see the thumbnail and the title, say VA benefits are at risk. But that is true. Like, there's no other way to say it. The VA press secretary said VA benefits are at risk of being delayed, end quote. Right. Okay.
Clickbait.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, hey, we're just reading, like, it's a quote from the VA press secretary. Like, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying what he said, right? And so that's going to happen on this video. But just so everyone knows, that is a direct quote from the VA press secretary, and something that
Terrence Hayes
mentioned. Terrence Hayes. Something you had mentioned is it's 15 billion, right? Which is a really big number, more than my Kentucky mind can comprehend, right? And so it's like, let's just be real. Is the government going to delay veteran benefit payments? I think that's political suicide. Personally, I don't see that happening ever. The money's going to come from somewhere, but it really gets down to what you said, Jason, is that it's a huge mistake when it comes to budget and finance. Quick fact, my wife does finance for a government company, and she has spreadsheets for days, and she can get a budget super fast because Excel does all the work, like it's a formula. And so clearly people, simply put, just didn't do their job. Right? It's like the VSR is telling the VFW, nah. That's pretty much what happened here. The budget and finance was just like, here's the budget, but really they didn't do the analysis piece. I'd like to totally transition to a topic that we did not cover last week for those that really are interested in 100%, going from 100% combined scheduler, or whatever you want to call it, to 100% P&T. And for this scenario, let's take cancer out of the equation. Cancer will be rated again based on residuals, and so that's not going to be P&T. Okay. And so, Jason, when it comes to 100%, and I'll start it with this. There's an OIG report from 2022 that absolutely slammed the VA for unwarranted C&P exams. That's still happening, by the way. The House subcommittee just talked about last week unwarranted C&P exams, so that's not going away. But the VA, from then to now, I have seen way more P&T ratings versus ratings that are not static. And I think the indication is from the VA getting slammed. I have no idea. I have no way to prove that, but that's my thought process. But there are veterans that will be 100% not P&T, and I always get the same question: how do I apply for it? What does that look like? So, Jason, can you just take that conversation of going from 100% to 100% P&T?
So the number one thing, Clay, is you have to know where you are before you can know where you're going to go, right? So you need to understand your whole VA kind of life, right? So all of your conditions, right? All of your conditions, and you need to and this, I'm gonna preface it with this. This is one of the reasons why I believe that we both always suggest working with an accredited representative that not only is accredited, but also has access into the VA system. It saves you a lot of heartache, and it makes things a lot easier. So for those that don't know, VA accredited representatives, you can be accredited, and that's the number one thing. You need to work with an accredited person. The number two thing is not all accredited representatives go through the process to get their PIV card. Okay, their PIV card is like a CAC card for those that are currently in. It's a new military. Well, I say new. They've been out for a long time now. Geez, but your ID card with the computer chip in it. So you slide it in, and then you can sign things. Type in your key, make sure that it's you, authenticate, all that good stuff. Well, that computer chip allows you, the accredited rep, to remote desktop into the VA system, VBMS, and view any veterans records who've been appointed, who appointed that veteran rep, right? So you need to appoint them. They can't just look at anybody's records. They have to be somebody that's been appointed. So the first thing you need to do is understand what claims you have, what conditions you have, conditions you have that are deemed static. Now, deemed static means that the VA has essentially given up on doing any future exams on that condition for you. And if they're not doing a future exam, they're not going to reduce you. I hope that makes sense, right? So having a static condition, the VA goes, your condition's not likely to get better. It's most likely going to probably get worse. We're not going to see anymore. It's a waste of our time and money to see you for any sort of re-examination. So off you go. If they're not doing a re-examination, the likelihood of getting reduced for that is, it's zero, really. So now, let's say that you have 7 conditions. Let's say that you're at 100% with those 7 conditions, and there's so much nuance. I come up with, like, as I'm talking, Clay, I'm thinking about 15 different ways that you could paint this picture that are all different. So let's just say that your 7 conditions, actually, you need every single one of them, and they actually take you to whatever, 95%, right? So now you're rounded up to 100%. And all of them are static except for one. And that one condition happens to be GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and it was rated as a hiatal hernia, whatever, 3 years ago. Okay. Well, now let's look at your medical records. If you have been rated for that for 3 years, what the VA is kind of waiting for here is you probably, if you look back at your decision letter, it probably says you're going to have a future exam because it's not static, number one. Most people don't sit there and read them all, first of all. And then the second thing is that even after you read them, you sit them somewhere, you lose them, they're gone. You don't know where that decision letter went because you're too busy checking your bank account. So now you've realized, oh yeah, that's not static. I have a future exam. Okay, cool. You need to make sure that you're continuing to see your doctor about the severity of your GERD, rated as, in this example, hiatal hernia. For those that don't know, it recently changed to esophageal stricture as the rating criteria for GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. God, it's a lot of words. So you need to look at your old rating schedule for hiatal hernia and look at that, look at the criteria, and you need to make sure that you're continuing to see your doctor and documenting all that stuff so you can make sure that you position yourself in a way to not be reduced after your next CMP exam, or it's not really a CMP exam, after your next scheduled re-examination. So then once you pass that and you hit the 5-year mark, for example, now all of a sudden you have a roadway into static condition. Here's the bad part. It's written that once you've been established at 5 years of having a condition that has been the same or worse over a 5-year period, the VA is to not have any future examinations for that condition, which means that it's now static in the VA's eyes, okay? So GERD, rated under hiatal hernia, rated for 3 years, has a future exam. You see the exam at 4 years, another year goes by, now you're at 5 years. Cool. Well, the VA doesn't have like flashy lights, you know, going, hey, look at Clay's claim. Bloop, 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 woo, woo, woo. Clay's claim, his hiatal hernia has been 5 years and it hasn't changed. Oh, well, we need to change him to static. I wish it worked like that. It doesn't. So most likely you, and this is I'm going to go with my suggestion because it's the appropriate thing to do. My suggestion is work with your accredited rep. Let them know that you have been rated for 5 years for your GERD and that it's been static with your doctor, hasn't changed, and you want to make sure that you can get that changed to static with the VA and request 100% permanent in total because now all of your conditions are static. Now, you're going to need to provide proof, right? Mm-hmm. Sure, the VA saw you at 4 years. Well, that's not 5 years, right? So they saw you with their re-exam at 4. So there's still this outlying year. What I would personally do is go back to my doctor again because you're treating this like it's a multi-million-dollar deal because it is. So you're putting in the work and the effort to button up everything and cross the T's and dot the I's. So you're going to your doctor. Now you're having your doctor write you a letter that states that they've been seeing you for the past 5 years and 6 months or whatever it's been, right? And that you're being treated for GERD and, you know, blah, 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 some other things, and that your condition is deemed static in bold letters and that it has not gotten any better and is most likely going to get worse over time. And if they have any questions, reach them at whatever, and here's their signature and their license number and all that good stuff. And get that letter and submit that along with any additional medical records that you have. And you know, I'm a fan of overkill a little bit sometimes if it's not hurting anything. Like I would still do, the letter's probably good enough, but I'd probably do my letter. I'd probably do medical records for the past 5 years for that condition, even though they already may have some of that. I may also get copies of my prescription just to show, look, I'm prescribed this. Look, new prescription, just got it yesterday, and put that in there and button it all up. And with that letter on the top of it all, and submit that with my veteran service rep, who's going to then request that to be changed to static per the CFR and move over to permanent and total, because all of my conditions would now be static, which is what's needed to move to permanent and total. I know that was super long, Clay, and I know that you want to talk, so I'm just going to let you talk.
Yeah. So when it comes, you said everything really. There are some niche situations I do want to point out that I see
Yes.
most people that are not P&T but are 100% fall into. And then it really comes down to one thing. If I see a decision letter, right? I'm a veteran. I submit my claims. I'm 100% not P&T. We're going to have a question. How do you know your conditions are static? Straight up. If your decision letter does not say routine future exam, it's static, okay? That you'll see that in a new decision letters. You can also go to your regional office and do the FOIA request for your rating code sheet, right? We can talk about that another day, but that's how you find out. The easiest way is
Your VSO, can just pull it up.
The easiest
Unless you were
way
just
is
going to say that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Now, the number one thing to remember, if you get a decision letter and you are 100% but not P&T, it is absolutely game time. Okay, it is time to get serious about healthcare. This is one of those things that it's good because you get benefits, but it's bad because you have a disability. But it's bad you have a disability, but it's good you get benefits. You know, it hurts so good. It's one of those because, you know, let's say mental health, you want to get better, and getting better is a good thing. I think we can all agree on that. But then at the same time, you also lose benefits, and there's a monetary benefit, which helps my mental health, right? Financial is a huge piece of this mental stability. And so it's that really weird situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you get a decision letter on a claim that's not static, evidence becomes, it's already critical. Okay. I would just double down on how critical evidence is, whether that's through the VA. Now, I don't know why this is, but most people that I've seen with 100% but not P&T, for some reason, go to private healthcare, right? Which is good. I'm a fan of that. And that's good. Keep in mind, the VA doesn't see that. Okay. The VA has absolutely zero idea who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, if you're seeing a psychiatrist, none of that, if it's not within their network. And I think that really pins the focus on the veteran to say, hey, I know I have private health care, but annually or quarterly, whatever you want to do, I'm going to meet my VA primary care and then give the VA those records for that condition that is not static. Because the VA is looking at your records. When that routine future exam pops up, they're going to look at those records. And the worst case scenario is you have an ACE exam, so not in person, you get a letter of reduction. And one day you're just like, whoa, I'm being reduced, right? And it's because there's a lack of records there. Is that right or wrong? That's a different topic, right? We can go into that. But that's what's going to happen. So if you're using private, just remember you have to show, you know, the breadcrumbs, right? Hey, you rated me at 50% for mental health. 3 years later, I've been seen for this. I've been seen for that. I've developed suicidal ideations. I went to therapy, whatever that looks like for you. I'm on medication, right? It's clearly the same or more severe. Make sure the VA has those records. That's what's going to move you from 100% to 100% P&T. And there's one niche situation I definitely want to hit on because a lot of people don't understand that if you are discharged due to mental health, right, which is the majority of medical discharge is mental health, no matter what, you will be re-examined in 6 months. Okay, so you're not going to get 100% P&T if you're medically discharged or medically retired for mental health. It's not going to happen, right? After 6 months, maybe. But if you're medically discharged, this is from M21. I'm going to paraphrase here. If you're medically discharged for mental health, minimum rating 50% with a re-examination in 6 months. And so no matter what, you're not going to be P&T. Okay. But now you know, all right, I have 6 months to go see my healthcare team. And I'm telling you, this is for everyone who's not P&T. If you have a lack of records, that is enough evidence for the VA to say, you know what? It's not that bad. If it was that bad, you would go see your doctor. And that's what's going to prompt them to get that reduction letter. And all of a sudden you're saying the VA sucks, you know, on YouTube like Jason and I are. right? But that's the story. Like, that's what happens. There are other scenarios. Cancer, obviously, it's going to be rated on residuals, and then your temporary ratings like surgery will be rated on residuals. So one last thing, I think we're kind of going everywhere. I just want to get all my thoughts out on 100%. TDIU at 100% generally, right? Because if you're bad enough where you can't work, it's not likely you're going to heal. You'll eventually, majority of the time, you'll see IU and P&T. And so that takes about, I want to say 4 to 5 years on average, at least from what I've seen. But yeah, Jason, those are my last thoughts on the claim clinic, on the $15 billion shortfall, on the 100% in P&T. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have some more on the 100%. So a couple things. One is there may be individuals out there who are 100% not permanent in total, who should be permanent in total, okay, already. And for fear of poking the bear, they just don't say anything, right? And it could be something to where, like we've mentioned, a static condition may have met thresholds and it's just out there and it's been that way for 10, 15 years and you just left it alone. Another example would be, and this is my own personal example of what happened to me. Sometimes we have a claim in, that claim's getting decided, that takes us somewhere. In the meantime, we weren't happy with that. So then we end up filing an appeal. That takes a long time with the board. In the meantime, we found another claim we were going to file for. We filed for that. That claim takes us to 100%. Meanwhile, we still have the Board of Veterans Appeal claim in process. Then that gets decided, comes back, and well, we're already at 100%. But now we have this new one that comes in that changes the dynamic potentially, because for my example, personal example, I got to 100% with a claim with the VBA for an increase. I was already at 100%, not permanent in total, because I had one condition that had a future exam. All my other conditions were static. I had one that had a future exam. I'm at 100%. My increase with the Board of Veterans Appeals was a static condition asking for an increase. They granted the increase. That comes back. I don't need my not static condition any longer to be 100%. Now my increase from the board was enough to bring me to 100%. So now I had 100% of static conditions with the VA funny math. I still had this outlier with a future exam, but because my conditions that were static all added up to 100%, that was my leg to stand on. The VA didn't change it for me. I had to reach out to the VA and go, hey, VA, I'm now 100% all static conditions. Change me to 100% permanent in total. They did. And then because I no longer need any rating for that future examined condition, they just eliminate it as far as any future exams, because they're like, it doesn't matter. If they reduced me to 0 for that condition, I'd still be 100% permanent in total. So they just eliminate future exams because it doesn't change the overall outcome for you. So if you were in any sort of situation like that, where you had different claims happening in different places coming back in, you might have static conditions that equal 100%, especially for people that have multiple conditions that you filed for an increase later, you did this, you did that. You might actually have static conditions at 100%, and then some that aren't, but they're over 100, so you don't even need them anyway. And it's simply notifying the VA that you should be permanent in total. It's just an oversight on their side. Believe me, the VA is not sitting there going, oh, well, let's look in Clay's file and see what he's up to, because they really don't care. They're more worried about getting off for the day and going home, texting their friends, and figuring out their weekend. right? The people that are handling our claims, let's just be honest. I mean, they're probably like what, GS8 workers or something. You know what I mean? So nobody's out trying to, well, they might be trying to find Clay, maybe, but not so much you. Now, the last thing I wanted to throw in, just because it's applicable, is in the 38 CFR, right? God, I just hate even saying it, but I say it just so people know that I actually am looking at it. It states this. No, now we all understand, first of all, that being static is the key to 100% permanent and total, right? And what is being static? It's not having a future examination. That's being static, okay? That your condition is deemed not to get better, so the VA is not wasting their time on you anymore as far as those re-exams. So, Clay, you already know what I'm going to read. I'm just going to read it anyway.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So, no periodic future examinations will be requested in service-connected cases. No periodic re-examination will be scheduled, and it has a list of 6 different reasons why. Number 1, when the disability is established as static. So no future exam, right? When you're static. Now, in my opinion, most of the rest of these are ways that your condition would be deemed as static. So it's kind of like, it's almost like defining static in a weird way, but they're all listed out as separate ways to get there. So in any case, I'm going to read through these real quick. So no future exams when your disability is established as static. Number 2, when the findings and symptoms are shown by examinations scheduled in paragraph B2I or 1 of this section or other examinations and hospital records to have persisted without material improvement for a period of 5 years, right? So that's that 5-year thing we talked about. That's why you'll always see your re-examinations within that 5-year period. It's typically 3 or 4 years in. Number 3, where the disability from disease is permanent in character and of such nature that there is no likelihood of improvement. Some conditions are just, it is what it is. You're static. That's it. Welcome to your life, right? Don't get confused, though, with having a static condition, a condition that is deemed static, and your rating. 2 different things, okay? You can always move your rating, right? You can move your rating around. You can go for an increase. Your rating can be here, but it can be a static condition, right? So you can always go increase, right? That what they're saying is that condition is not likely going to improve, but it can always get worse. So you can go up. So don't think that you can't ask for an increase, right? It can always get worse. Next one, number 4, in cases of veterans that are over the age of 55 years, except under unusual circumstances. And Clay, I would say that your mention of cancer typically falls in that boat, as far as, if you're 57 years old, you're over the 55 years rule, but you come down with cancer, they're going to wait and see what happens with the cancer, see if it goes into remission, what sort of residuals, and then they're going to determine from there. So that would probably be the most common, I would think. I don't really know of any other more common than that. Number 5, when the rating is prescribed schedule minimum rating. So if you're 10% tinnitus, that's static because there's only 10%. So if you're the lowest rating for a condition on the rating schedule, then they just call you static. Next one is number 6, and this is the last one, and then I'll pass it back to you, Clay, for your final thoughts. Where a combined disability evaluation would not be affected if the future examination should result in a reduced evaluation for 1 or more conditions. This is the one where you have 8 conditions, 7 of them took you to 100%. You're good to go. All those are static, for example. You have this other condition that even if it was reduced to a 0, you'd still be 100%. So they're saying that it doesn't change your overall rating, so why bother? They would just negate it, any future exams on that. So with that, Clay, that's the 6 ways to become static to ensure you can get to that 100% permanent and total. Your thoughts on any of that?
Oh yeah, so I'm going to keep this real short, and I'll take it back to you. more so on your personal story that you had to basically, you know, nudge the VA to award you P&T. You could have lived your whole life in the not knowing and just been 100% and been fine, right? But because you were paying attention to your claim, paying attention to the situation, and you were active, you were your own advocate. That's what positioned you to go the P&T route. And it goes to say, you know, if you can live your whole life not knowing and be perfectly fine, or you can be informed, be educated. If you're watching this channel, especially all the way to the end, about an hour and 15 minutes in, you're probably on the educated and informed route. And I think it's a great example of just being your own advocate. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about that, Jason. You want to go ahead and take it out?
All right. We covered a lot, Clay. Super good episode. I'm sure we're going to break it into some segments, a little more bite-sized for folks. But I hope that wherever you watch this video, please share it with somebody because there's good information in here. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.